Well, with the current election,
Yeah.
we see pocketbooks opening up, except for in renewable energy, of course, because the government's going to shut that feed off again. But in the oil and gas industry and in the manufacturing, we're seeing people planning projects. We have a lot of work right now doing project budgets for companies for next year, right? It's that time of year again. And hey, we want to do this project. Can you give me an estimate on what this is going to take?
Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. One of your hosts here, Trey King. And today we are very excited to have our guest, Dave Hobson from Triumphus. And we'll be diving into his story a little bit today, as well as what it is that his company does, and then some engaging insights into the technology industry. So make sure to stick around for this one. But without further ado, Dave, welcome.
Thank you for having me, sir. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have you on today. Dave, if you could, if we can maybe kick things off, that you introduce yourself and just tell us a quick snippet of your story.
Sure. So I started in the Marine Corps a long time ago in recon, special forces.
Oh, wow.
And got hurt in the Middle East like so many others. And when I got out, I went to school and figured out I was better at school than before I went in. I had learned some discipline. And so ended up with a PhD in econometrics and international relations.
Oh, wow.
And also learned not soon afterwards that I was not cut out to be a professor, because you're not supposed to make your students do push-ups. They're like that, especially at UCLA. So, but I worked my way through college and grad school with a wife and kids in IT. And so I just went back down that path. Program manager with a company called Medical Logic and Superscripts. You may remember them. Every time you go to the pharmacy, you get this huge bundle of papers that you don't really read. Yeah, that's Superscripts.
Those ones we never read.
That kills trees like crazy, but anyway, and then that all turned into WebMD. And then I went on my family. We were living in St. Louis, so we wanted to move back to Texas, where I'm from, and went to work for Union Carbide. Worked through that merger by Dow. Did a huge SAP implementation there. Then I went to work for BHP Billiton and created a base metals, which was 5 mergers together in one, and implemented SAP there. That's why I don't have any hair, Craig, because I implemented SAP.
Excellent.
And then after that, I did Devon and Ocean's merger, and figured out that every time you do a merger or an acquisition, the IT lead gets fired, because you can't make anybody happy with the new process and the new technology. And so I started Triumphus, which is Latin for grand procession, which is what we do. We turn your business into a grand procession. Now, in Latin, when the Roman warriors would come home after a war, if they won, which they always did, you would have a grand procession through town. And so that's what we try to lead, is a grand procession.
Excellent. Now I get it.
And so the interesting part about what we really do is companies that are growing either with venture capital or with equity or just outright growth, usually started small, and they don't remember to fix the processes and the planning or even the thought process of being a big company. And so our shift, if you will, is a 180-degree shift for the individuals in the company to think like they're a big company and to act as if they're a big company. So an example, one of my current clients only has 50 employees, but they have $500 million from BlackRock. Act like it.
Okay.
when you're in procurement, when you're trying to sign deals, act like you're a $500 million company, because you are. And it's
Yeah.
a mind shift, right? You know, they're looking at the vendors, and as well as the people you're trying to convince to buy your stuff, are
Yeah.
looking at you as if you're a 50-person company, but you're not. The mind shift is you are big. Now, you want to go with me and grow with me? I'll give you a deal, right? I'll give you a 5-year contract procurement, or I'll give you a 5-year deal on your up on whatever you're selling.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's our big difference. And we don't do marketing. We don't have any marketing.
Yeah.
We're pure referral. And we're somewhere between 10 and 30 million every year, depending on the year. COVID was horrible, but that was horrible for everybody.
That was horrible for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of us in a nutshell. The 4 partners, we've all been together since Union Carbide. So we're all old. Sorry, I'm not even the oldest, but we've all been doing this for 30 plus years together, and we're good at it. And we're not the big 4. So I don't bring in 30, 20 somethings and charge you a fortune. What I do for our clients, once we go in, we train you on our methods, and then you don't need me anymore. Now, that's probably not the best business model, but it's an honest one.
I agree. Tell me, Dave, based on your expertise, and obviously you've been doing this for quite some time now. What would you say are the current market trends that you are picking up? That you're aware of. What ways are the winds blowing these days?
Well, of course, everything's going to the cloud, right?
Yeah.
And then there's this thing called artificial intelligence, which, by the way, in the 90s we called neural networks, and in the thousands we called them big data, and in the tens we called it algorithms, and now we're calling it AI. So it's just a rebranding. Now, the difference is true that the GPUs are so much faster. It can produce results so much quicker. But I'd rather call it augmented intelligence.
Yeah.
You still have to have a human, right? Now, you can write your algorithms and point your vectors, data, your own data, and the natural resource data around you, and you can come up with some new insights that you didn't think about. And that's what augmented intelligence really does, right? It looks at huge data sets and says, oh, have you thought about this? Well, no, I haven't. Let me think about that. But don't let it make decisions. It's not a decision maker. It is a tool to help you find new ways of looking at stuff. I work with the wind farm company sometimes, and we built a big algorithm that runs against, instead of just the data they've gathered on the wind farm site, we look at the meteorological data for the last 50 years and figured out that, yeah, we're going to have a slow spell here for a little bit, because every 10 years we get no wind.
And predict.
Yeah.
It's like predicting the weather. My word.
Yeah. And so that's where I think everything's going. I don't want to call it artificial intelligence, but augmented intelligence is very interesting.
Tell me, and then, having said that, what would you say is the current market sentiment like?
I'm not sure I understand your question. Do you mean
from
using it?
How's the market like behaving at the moment when it comes to, maybe let's talk about buying power and their movement, specifically in your sector?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, with the current election, we see pocketbooks opening up.
Yeah.
Except for in renewable energy, of course, because the government's going to shut that feed off again. But in the oil and gas industry and in the manufacturing, we're seeing people planning projects. We have a lot of work right now doing project budgets for companies for next year, right? It's that time of year again. And hey, we want to do this project. Can you give me an estimate on what this is going to take? Yes, we can. And so I think that while we saw many companies holding the pocketbooks closed for the last few
Yeah.
years, I think it's opening back up after COVID and then the first Trump uh, presidency and then Biden's presidency. I think they look at it like, you know what? It's just going to be the same. It doesn't matter. We waited so long. We have to invest in some of our stuff,
Mm.
especially from a technology standpoint. So I think Cisco sales are going to go through the roof, Palo Alto, all those big network vendors that nobody's refreshed. Um, and I think you're going to see a big increase in the number of augmented intelligence users, which is going to drive up data center use. And I think that's
Interesting.
the big lead of where we're going. I really do.
Got it. Tell me you've obviously touched on what your company does a bit earlier, but if you don't mind, just to explain to the listeners, specifically what is it that your company does, and then what would you say is the most significant value point, the most significant value that you bring to other businesses?
Sure. So in detail, when you transfer your mindset from being a startup or a small company into an enterprise,
Yeah.
we have to change the mindset of everybody, not just IT, procurement, contracting, HR. Everybody has to act like they're $1 billion company. And so
All departments.
all departments. And so you have to transform, you have to do a psychological transformation for everybody. And that takes a little time. And to do that, you have to have a lot of what I would call one-to-many sessions. So it's harder remotely, but we're getting better at it. But we bring everybody along to help them understand what that means, right? And so for each department, it means something different.
Yeah.
For example, in procurement, you want a contract the same as General Mills. You don't want a contract on a 50-person company. And
Mm.
an HR department, you want to be able to negotiate with a new hire as if you were Ford, not as if you were, 50-person company.
Yeah.
Um, they want everybody to bet on your future. Steve Jobs said it best when he built the first iPhone. He convinced the Chinese company to build it as cheap as they could, and he would
Yeah.
give them a cut of the profits. Well, look what happened to that,
Yeah.
right? And so he was thinking like a big company. And we do that as well as from an IT perspective. How do we build out your IT so that it's scalable
Yep.
and yet doesn't cost a fortune and
Mm.
it doesn't need a lot of support? And that's the goal. When we finish, I mean, I've got networks running. My team, I don't do
Yep.
network. They didn't give me admin rights to my laptop I'm talking to you on. But my team has built networks that haven't been down in 10 years
Oh,
and
wow.
no power, right? And so that you have to build it such that the IT department is not bigger than the finance department, right?
Good point.
And so that's the two things that make us different from anybody else on the planet.
Yeah.
And like I told you earlier, the third thing that makes us different is we build it such that it doesn't need a lot of support and you don't need me to come back. Now, it may be a bad business model, but I like it.
Yeah, I like it as well. Tell me in your opinion, if we can maybe step back a bit and have a look at just a general perspective on business, what type of mindset would you say, Dave, is needed to be a successful founder of a company?
Uh, so I get asked that quite often. Um, and we're successful. We're not Apple, but we're successful. I think in today's environment, since 2010,
Yep.
if founders don't share the wealth of the company, it won't make it. So we're a consulting firm and we charge consulting dollars, right? Just like everybody,
Yep.
but there's no employees. We don't have any employees. I studied under Peter Drucker. And years ago, we said the future was the gig economy back in the 90s before that was a word. We didn't even coin the phrase, but that's what we call it now.
Yeah.
And so for every consultant I have on the ground, the company makes $25 per hour per head. And all the rest goes to the consultant who's actually doing the work. I
Yeah.
know it's crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but they're responsible for their own health care, their own 401, their own everything.
Yeah.
And at the end, so when we had COVID and everybody laid off people, we didn't lay anybody off. We just didn't have a lot of work. So we didn't make a lot of money. But I have network engineers that make it $250,000 a year. And that's how I'm getting the top talent without having to have equity money involved where I'm paying shareholders. And I think that's the future for especially consulting firms. But I
That's
would
a very
argue,
good structure.
I'm sorry.
That's a very good structure.
Yeah, I like it. And I think even with some of our clients, we've told them about our structure, and they've looked harder at how much wealth do we give to back to the equity firm and how much wealth do we share to the people that made it. And I think that's important. When you have a bad year, you don't make as much. You have a good year, you make more. That's the way it should be. Everybody should make more. And I worked at one of the big fours. I didn't bring it up for a week. And they were explaining to me how to milk a client dry as a consultant. And we both decided that it would be best if I quit because I can't do that. And I think any company that's trying to milk it is not going to make it today. We're too smart. There's too much information out there. You can do too much with technology, and with smart people making differences that create changes to the bottom line matter. And you don't have dead weight like we used to, right? There's not three people watching one guy dig a trench. That's not how it works. And so I think that's critical for any founder of any company to ever do, is find a way to share the wealth and make everybody. I tell my guys all the time, we're going to all get rich together, or we're not going to get rich at all.
Yeah. Tell me, Dave, if what are the most important things, up until now with your career, right? I'm thinking now about if there's maybe one or two things that you can maybe leave, the younger entrepreneur, wanting to get into the space, wanting to start growing a business. What are some of the most important things that you've learned up until now?
Don't cinch on your bookkeeper. That person's incredibly important. Because you can get in, I did get in trouble tax wise, and I'm out of it now, but because I didn't have a good bookkeeper, that was a trouble.
Yeah.
And the other one is hire people smarter than you. Surround yourself with people smarter than you. You don't want to be the smart guy in the room. You want to be the dumb guy in the room that everybody's telling you what you should be doing.
Yeah, good points. Those are very good golden nuggets, as they say. Tell me, Dave, where can the listeners get a hold of you guys?
Well, I tell you what, my email is dhobson@triumphus and .com. And here's my phone number, personal cell phone number. You can call me 832-814-7218. And if I don't pick up, it'll go to one of the other partners. But I usually pick up.
Excellent. I do need to commend you. The value that your company brings, I can fully understand why you guys are so successful. But just the way that you see your business and the way that you, obviously, we spoke about that structure earlier. The way that you, maybe lack of a better word, treat your personnel. The people that's, they grow along with you guys as well. It's not often that one gets to hear or see that in companies. So kudos definitely on that one. And then Dave, you provided us with such good insight today. This was fun, man. I hope I can get you on again. This was great.
Oh, sure. Anytime.
Excellent. Lovely.
You have a
Dave,
great day.
same to you, and thanks for hopping on. All the best.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.